I think you got to throw marketing out the window. And that's kind of what it is. If you focus more on telling a story, even with like these small areas of your site, when you think about, I mean, some of the stuff that you said, like, want to make $1 million, like as a headline, maybe you shouldn't say that as a headline. Cause like, I mean, of course you do, but how ridiculous.
Get ready to build, protect, and sell your expertise online with the Online Genius Podcast. You'll laugh. We hope you won't cry, but you'll always be informed and prepared so you can have the success you want. Here's your host, Bobby Klinck.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Online Genius Podcast. I am your host, Bobby Klinck. This is the first episode of the podcast, so I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome you to the show and to give you a brief overview of what you can expect out of this show going forward. Now, this isn't going to be an episode 0 where I'm going to spend the whole time talking about myself or my journey or the show. No, I just want to give you a quick overview before we get to the content of today's show, which will be diving in with some great value for you. In this show, you are going to learn how to build and protect your online business. Now, I'm an online entrepreneur, but I'm also an intellectual property lawyer. So I have an interesting and kind of unique perspective about building an online business and the things you need to be thinking about. And my perspective is unique for a couple of reasons. First, because I started as a lawyer, let me be honest, I started as a skeptic of marketing, of sales, of online entrepreneurship, of all those issues. And so as I've made the transition, I've had to overcome various hurdles of my mindset and thinking, well, that doesn't apply to me because I'm a lawyer. That doesn't apply because I'm not selling a product or whatever the thinking was. Those types of hurdles initially stood in my way, but I've overcome them. And so because of that, I think I'm going to be able to offer you a unique perspective to help you get past any of those types of mental obstacles you may have. But I'm also going to bring a unique perspective to this because as a lawyer, I see the legal issues that you need to be thinking about along the way. And these are issues that quite honestly are ignored or missed by many online entrepreneurs. So that's a second level of the perspective I'm going to bring. But this show is not going to be primarily about the law. Instead, this show is primarily going to be about how you can go about building your business. And the format of the show is going to help you with that. The bulk of each show will be me interviewing a guest expert. And these are folks who are experts in marketing and sales. Think all the way from the beginning of when you're identifying your customer avatar, all the way through selling, whether it's in webinars, funnels, any other aspect of online entrepreneurship. So I'm going to pick experts in various aspects there and interview them about those areas of their expertise. And unlike many online entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship podcasts, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking with my guests about their journey and those aspects of their personal brand building. Instead, I'm going to focus on asking them questions to give you tactics and strategies and to actually give you actionable information and ideas that you can implement in your business. So that's going to be the bulk of each show. But after that, there will be a brief section of me giving a legal lesson. And I want to stress brief. These are going to be 5-minute type of lessons. And the purpose will be for me to really get you thinking about issues related to whatever topic the expert covered. It's not going to be something where I'm going to make you an expert on that legal issue. It's more going to be making sure you're thinking about these issues so that you can take the basic steps to protect your business as you're building it. That's it. Quick, short, sweet, to the point. Now, that's what you will get in each episode. I also want to help you understand when you're going to get each episode. We are going to be publishing weekly. And so a new episode will be coming out every Tuesday night or into the morning of Tuesday, I guess it is, overnight, Monday to Tuesday. So you'll get a new episode every week with me interviewing an expert and then giving you a lesson. So That's it. That's the quick overview of what's going to happen. In today's episode, you're going to get some great content. And so without further ado, now I'm going to transition and we're going to move on and you're going to hear my interview with today's guest expert. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Online Genius Podcast. Today, I am really excited because we're going to be talking about two subjects that I love, but that I didn't always love. When I first started out, they were things that were foreign to me and that I messed up quite a bit. That's web design and copywriting. And these are two skills that are essential for every online entrepreneur to have some general understanding of and to be able to master, at least with the help of others, so that you can actually have your business and your message get out to the world. But luckily, you're not going to have to listen to me. I'm not going to be the one giving you the lessons because who wants to listen to a lawyer talk about those things? No, instead, I've got a special guest here today, Theresa. Now, Liz is someone that I had to bring on the show. First of all, before I give you a bit of information about her, I've got to tell you, she's got her own podcast, the Liz on Biz podcast, which is a great podcast. And she also has just the best guests of all on her show. And I can say that confidently because I was on the show as one of her guests.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, you were like one of my favorites. So I love it. I love it. I love it.
So Liz, let me give the listeners a bit more information about you and then we'll jump in. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so Liz is an online business expert. She lives in the Boston area. I'm pretty sure I've seen some photos of her with a Red Sox hat, which makes her okay in my book. But in addition to being in the Boston area and being an entrepreneur herself, what she does is work with other entrepreneurs and small business owners. And she helps them in a pretty broad range of subjects, from business development to copywriting, online marketing, design, and obviously web development. And she is the founder of Concept to Creation, her flagship program in which she blends her role as both a strategist and designer and a developer for her clients. But in addition to actually offering services where she charges you by the hour or by project, she also provides educational information to folks out there. I know she has at least one course in beta testing at this point where she teaches folks about copywriting and helps people become better copywriters. So without further ado, Liz, welcome to the podcast.
When I was listening, I was like, man, I want to meet Liz. And then I realized you were talking about me. So flattering. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here. Before we get to the substance, though, I'd like to ask people this question. When you were in school, did you have any sense that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, no. I can tell you, do you want to hear a story?
I would love to hear a story about it.
Because I love telling this story. I don't tell it that much, but I love telling it when people do ask about it. I went to Stonehill College. So it's like a pretty small school in Boston area. It's like not in town, but it's out. Like you would tell people from far away that it's in Boston because no one knows Massachusetts that well other than Boston. But it's like about 25 miles south. When I was there, it was my senior year. I was an English and theater major. So I was a theater minor, technically, and an English major. And my advisor said, it was like my advisor was like in the English department. A bunch of senior people came. So people in the senior class. And he was like, if you don't know what you're doing after graduation, you're already too late. And it was like October of like my senior year. So like I just got started. I was like, I'm already late. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Like what? And it totally sent me kind of into like a mental tailspin and things. I mean, I am a sensitive person. I don't know if you can tell. I have a lot of feelings. So was very affected by what he said. He's like a super nice guy too. Like, so if he knew that affected me that much, probably would have felt bad. So essentially what I decided to do is that I just said, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a teacher. Not that I don't like teachers, but I just wanted to get away from school. Like the idea of that, like forever was awful. Cause like when you're an English major, everybody's like, oh, you want to be a teacher? And then you're like, no, dummy. Like that's not what I'm doing. And I didn't want to go into publishing because I didn't necessarily understand that. Like I was like, that would be thrilling. Like I just couldn't picture that publishing. I don't know. It's not that that's bad either, but like I just pictured manuscripts getting thrown out and people's dreams being crushed, or editing like one sentence occasionally. Like I don't know what they do, but I just didn't like it. And then I looked into journalism, but journalism frowns on people that have like big opinions because you can't go straight into editorial. You have to like write really just what happens. Because my brother is a journalist. He's like award-winning journalist at WMUR in New Hampshire. And so like I was like, oh, I'm going to be like my brother. Like, and then I was like, oh, hey, this isn't for me either. So then I decided that more school might be the answer. So I ended up getting a master's in English, and I went for free at Bridgewater State University as part of their graduate assistant program. And so I went for free. And then while I was there, there was an administrator, and this was 2009 when I started. An administrator on campus started an online marketing agency in 2009, which is very cutting edge in 2009 because Twitter was just invented in February of that year. So like, then he just taught, and then he was like, oh, can you teach me about, on camera stuff? Cause like, my theater background, and I was working at a TV studio at Bridgewater. And so I knew performance and I knew film pretty well at the time. So I was like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll teach you video. And then he was like, then I have to fix your personal brand. And then that kind of opened a door for me, a big door. Cause I was like, what's a personal brand? He was like, marketing. And I was like selling Avon, like knives. I was like, what is what selling? I just pictured like on Friends when Phoebe had to sell knives. I thought that was marketing. And so like, I didn't really understand marketing until he kind of like force fed me marketing. I just think he thought we just got along really well. And so he taught me a bunch of that stuff. Then after I graduated, I thought I went to an interview for a company called wigs.com, and they sell wigs for your head.
Yeah,
right?
Wigs.
And so wigs, wigs. It's just a weird word to say if you don't say it every day. So I went for the interview, and it would have been my job to write product descriptions. And it was the only interview I actually got the whole time. So I went for the wigs.com interview, and the person interviewing me was like, this job will crush you. He said, because my design was my resume was all graphically designed, and it had colors everywhere. And I made up a logo for my name. I was just being cool. I don't know. I thought I was cool. I had a fashion-y outfit. And he was like, you'll die here. You don't want to be here. That was the guy interviewing me. And I was like, really? I'll die here? And so then I thought about it. And I thought I might start freelancing. And I had to look up what that was because I wasn't even sure what freelancing was. It all sounded so weird. My parents had owned a business, but it was a much different kind of business. My parents actually owned a business called Morse Diving, and they made the hard hat helmets that you saw in the movie Men of Honor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they made those actual ones that Cuba wore. It was kind of cool. But yeah, so that's what my parents did. And so what I wanted to do, I never saw that as a thing until I was told that I don't want a job. And I'd actually had a bad boss before in my life, and I didn't want to repeat that either. So then I started freelancing, and then to support my growing business, I was a licensed insurance agent at the time in Massachusetts. And I actually still have my license because why not keep it, right?
Right.
And so then I just started selling insurance policies and working the desk and stuff downstairs, actually in the same building. And now, fast forward, I'm working upstairs, and I do Liz Theresa full time. So LizTheresa.com and my web design business. And yeah, so that's a very long answer, but man, I like to tell it. So sorry, I got a little talky.
Well, it's fine. I love hearing that your parents were business owners. My father was a business owner my whole life as well. And I always like to tell the story. I've only been fired once in my life, and it was by my father. So
wow.
That's another long story. It wasn't my fault. It was my brother's fault, but I got fired when I was, I think, 13 years old from a warehouse job working for my father. So everything else I've been successful, but I cannot be a good warehouse worker, I guess.
I guess that part didn't come in your bloodline or something.
No, it did not. But so Liz, I want to transition. I want to talk to you first about copywriting. Mm-hmm. And, I think people have a sense of what copywriting is, but can you put it in plain English for someone who's first encountering kind of that word and coming across it and trying to understand exactly what it means?
Hell yes. Because sometimes I even say the word copy to clients. And if the client hasn't really worked on their copy before, they're like, what's copy? That's a real question I get asked. So if you feel that way, don't feel weird. That's sometimes people just don't know. I like to just say words on your website or words that you use in any marketing that you do is copy. So emails, social media posts, but most simply words on your site.
And so my understanding is that copywriting, in a sense, and people who style themselves as copywriters, they are people who help you to craft the words on your website and your emails, et cetera, for a business purpose. Is that kind of a good way of thinking of copywriting?
Yeah, I like that. We'll go with that's totally better than what I would have said, because I'm not even sure how I would have said. I would be we write it with our hands on a computer. No, yeah, that's well said. We do work alongside the people to do that.
And so, Liz, I got to be honest with you.
Please.
Maybe I would have been a good journalist because I am a just the facts ma'am kind of guy. That's been my perspective. And so when I first started my business and I was doing copywriting for myself, for my website, et cetera, it was very boring, monotonous, and again, just the facts and no emotion. I guess I'd ask for people like me, do you have advice for people like me on how to overcome that and how to kind of add emotion to their writing to help sell or to make their personal brand stronger?
I think it's totally about prompting yourself differently. So instead of saying, I have to go write my about page now, maybe saying to yourself, like asking yourself a question that would spur you telling a story, similar to the fact that, like, we're on this podcast and you were like, did you always know you'd be an entrepreneur? And I was like, let me tell you my life. I was born December 15th, and I won't say the year because eventually I'll regret that. But yeah, basically, I would say asking yourself for something like an about page. I always like to ask people, like, why did you start this business is a great question to answer on your about page. And it's really simple. So without getting too heady about like changing the way that you write or like using Grammarly, which is a great tool, but totally auxiliary to what I'm getting at. But asking yourself, why did you start this business? You'll get a more passionate response. And if you don't, then I got questions about your business. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you need to change your business a little bit. But yeah, that should get your juices flowing, because you might be like, to save the whales or something. Okay. And I'm like, that's what I want to hear, man. You save those whales.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Ironically, I think, and I would imagine you probably get the opposite objection from a lot of people, because a lot of and maybe I don't know, this is the opposite, but one of the objections I had early on when I thought about copywriting was I thought about the very salesy copy and high level, or not high level, but salesy and kind of doesn't make me happy marketing, where either everybody's going to say they're going to make me the next Bill Gates because I'm going to make that much money if I hire them, or if I don't do what they say, somehow it's going to lead to nuclear war. It was kind of that extreme exaggeration. Do you hear that objection from people when, you're trying to sell them on, maybe punching up their copy a bit?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I hear people say, well, I don't want to sound salesy, or I don't want to sound cheesy. And then I make a joke that I always make because I think it's funny, but I'm always like, my copy is lactose intolerant. We understand your non-cheesy needs. And then people usually laugh and hire me. To be honest with you, that's like one of my Lizisms that I say.
I like it. I like that idea.
I think you got to throw marketing out the window. And that's kind of what it is. If you focus more on telling a story, even with like these small areas of your site, when you think about, some of the stuff that you said, like, want to make $1 million, like as a headline, maybe you shouldn't say that as a headline. Cause of course you do, but how ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? What if you said, instead of like trying to sound like, trying to sound appealing, stop trying to sound so appealing. Cause that actually reeks of desperation. Like, think about going to a bar, and like, there's the guy with the too much cologne or the woman with the no clothes on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, let's not scream.
I think I go to different bars than you, Liz.
I know. Maybe I'm like, maybe that's just Vegas or like wherever. I'm like, that's like probably the last bar I've been at. So no wonder people were all naked and ridiculous. But yeah, like think about that. Like you don't want to come off like gross. So don't talk so gross. If you're telling a story, it's more natural. And I like to remind people that like usually your favorite commercials, like on TV, thinking of the ones that are even on during the Super Bowl, they're the ones that are telling the story,
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. I think, as you know, I'm in the process of developing my signature online course, and part of my difficulty has been balancing the lawyer in me, which quite honestly was taught to hate marketing and sales and think of those as dirty words, and overcoming that. But at the same time, I feel like I'm in a sea of people who are so exaggerated, and so it seems like it's a hard line to walk. But I like your advice of just think about telling stories. That's probably the best piece of advice I've heard on this subject.
Well, because as long as you're telling a story, you're going to sound like you're being an honest person. And hopefully your story's true.
So no pictures of Lambos and private jets. That's not the way to make money.
I have a client, I won't say who they are, but it makes me laugh because this totally came up. They have this picture of them where it looks like they own like a mansion, but it was a picture outside of a hotel. But it looks like they're acting like they own it. And so I'm like, how about your rich guy picture? And they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, there's this picture of you that looks like you own like private jets and have a hotel and like you're wearing Ray-Bans that are polarized. I don't know. It was really incredible photo. And then they told me it wasn't their hotel, but it was still pretty funny.
Well, it's good to know that you're not working with people who own hotels. If so, you'd be pretty high rent, I guess, for people.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm very affordable by your everyday entrepreneur or even your really special one. If you have a high ego and think highly of yourself, I like people like that too. I mean, I work primarily, I even say it on my site, like aside from thinking of telling a story, also making sure your copy is talking directly to your target market. So like I was just getting at on my website, I say, if you're mean, please don't call me or email me. Like, I don't want to know you. Like if people think you're a nightmare, you're a nightmare. And usually people that are rotten, like if I say, if you're mean or people find you abrasive, please don't contact me. And I think it really cuts through a lot of the crap. I don't have that many mean people since I added it.
I think that's a good piece of advice everybody should have is, if you're mean, don't call me. But I guess that would actually cause a problem for some people who probably cater to those people. So,
well, I kind of think, I mean, especially if your job is to help someone in a crisis, like the last thing that person wants to be called is mean. But like for me, I mean, a lot of people want websites and I'd just rather work with the happy ones. Yeah. So that's kind of why I did it. Also, I mean, I'm also really relationship oriented in the way that I work with my people, especially around copy. So like, I mean, because I do get to know you in a really intimate way because it's all about asking questions. So I'm kind of a journalist because I get to ask a lot of questions and I have a podcast, except I get to be myself. And then the work that I do for the client, I make sure it sounds like them just by using the words that they say. So that's why when I say like to prompt yourself, it's going to sound way more natural than anything you can do.
I think that's great advice. But like I think I mentioned when I was introducing you, I know you have a course that is, I think, in beta testing at this point for copywriting. Is that right?
Yeah, I love it. It's cool.
And how do you go about teaching people? I assume the point of that is to teach people to do it themselves, at least kind of in early stages. Is that what the course does?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in Concept to Creation, which is the flagship program that's basically website copywriting and strategy combined. That's a good way to think about it. I realized I've been offering Concept to Creation for years. I would say since 2013, I've been doing that program. And I realized over time, I was like, wow, people could really do the copy stuff themselves. So why not make that DIY? And that's kind of what spurred beta. It's for people that are DIYing their website, which is a thing that people do now. Maybe they don't want to hire me for like Concept to Creation, but maybe they want the copy help. This course is really for them because I realized that a lot of the stuff, the questions that I'm asking, I can basically create a self-guided way for people to prompt themselves. So similar to how I gave people that question that they can ask about their about page, that's kind of what Copy Beta is doing. And it's broken into 4 parts. And basically the goal is that by the end of the 4th part, you have all the copy for your website.
It's an amazing give that you've got for people there.
Thank you.
So other than suggesting that people should sign up for your course, which they clearly should, what is kind of one piece of advice that you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur or thought leader to improve their copywriting skills?
I would say, well, first open your wallet and buy the class. But if you can't, no, I just had to say it because
I agree. That's why I said other than that, yeah.
Because I'm the worst. No, I think the best piece of copy advice I can ever give anyone is clarity over cleverness wins every time. And that's actually a quote from Marie Forleo, just so I didn't make it up. But it's like so true. So say things really easy, kind of like when you asked me, I mean, at the beginning of this interview, what is copy? And I was like, words on a page. And that's really what it is. So looking at your own language and the work that you're doing, how can you strip it down? So there's even taking like a word that has many syllables and choosing a very easy word. Like, for example, on my site, if you want to schedule a call, it says, click the button to schedule a call. And it says schedule a call. I don't say schedule a consultation. I mean like consultation. I mean like, it sounds like a country that I'm asking you to fly to. I mean, it's overwhelming to the person reading it. But like if you also find it hard to read out loud after you write, this is the thing I make people do is after you do some writing, read it out loud and make sure it sounds like human English, like things that you would actually say. it's kind of the same test. So yeah, clarity over cleverness.
Liz, I think I know why I like you even more now, because when I was taking the SAT in high school, I always hated the grammar, or not the grammar, but the word section.
The verbal, yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't know what that word is, and even if I did, I'd never use it. So.
I know, it's just not necessary. I mean, I actually realized that earlier in the interview, I used the word auxiliary, and then I felt really pretentious about it. And now I just realized I used the word pretentious, and now I feel snobby. There you go, everyone. Yeah. But simplifying will make you way more accessible. And it's also going to make you sound, way clearer than your competition. Because your competition, I mean, like anybody that tries to act big, like, have you ever heard of acting big?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's gross. You're not big.
Yeah.
Embrace your littleness.
I always have taken the approach especially with words, that if I wouldn't have understood it in elementary school, I don't want to use it unless I absolutely have to. And as a lawyer, it's kind of hard to do that. I have to admit.
Yeah, more challenging. I would say for lawyers.
Yeah, but I work at it at least. But so we've talked about copy. I do want to get a little bit into web design though.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you. When I was first launching my law firm, I think I did design my website myself. And I think I've actually designed my website for my law firm, but also for Your Online Genius myself from the beginning. But when I first started, I thought that web design was all about making it look pretty or look good, not necessarily pretty, but good. And so literally when I started out as a solo lawyer, went to the websites of some of these biggest law firms in the world with thousands of lawyers who quite honestly don't need to do marketing. And I said, I'm just going to copy their look and feel.
Oh gosh.
Can you tell me, was that a smart decision or a stupid decision?
I mean, if you could go back in time and maybe do some things differently, that's what I would say.
Yeah, so that would not be what you would advise people to go out and mimic the big, huge firms of the world's websites.
I'm sick of people mimicking anyone. And I gotta tell you, like, this is the thing. I want everybody to just like look in the mirror, slap themselves in the face, and then laugh about it. Because seriously, guys, like, I get so many requests where sometimes people walking in the door will be like, I want to look just like so-and-so, right? Or I want one of those. You're not ordering a smoothie or a burger. I mean, like, this is a website, and if you are your business. So if you're a service-based business, and I would guess that likely a lot of people listening are, I mean, like, who are you trying to be? Be you. You are going to be what's different. For the same reason in copy that's telling a story is going to make you sound different. Having a website that like really feels like you is of the utmost importance. And I would say that's huge.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's being authentic. I got to be honest. It took me forever and this is a small thing for me. I continued to have Robert Klinck as the name I gave to people forever, in spite of the fact that literally no one calls me Robert. Except
I know. I'm like uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, when I'm in trouble is about the only time I get that from my mother, my wife, and a judge might call me that. But, even my clients always called me Bobby within 5 minutes of talking with me. So I finally laid down the marker and said, why am I doing that? I'm just going to be Bobby. And it's a small thing, but I think it's an important lesson for people to just be yourself. And I think that's what you were saying, basically, in web design.
There's a lot in a name too, though. So I mean, I actually used to be LizDowney.com because Downey is my real life name in the world.
Yeah. Like
Robert Downey Jr., except we're not related. And even if we were, it'd be very distant. But yeah, it's like Liz Downey is my real name. I ended up switching to Liz Theresa because I actually wanted a fresh start. Not that I had this like sad, tragic life as Liz Downey, but like Liz Downey went to Norwell High School in Massachusetts. And like, I don't know, like I didn't want any of like, do you know what I mean? All the attachments to that name. I was like, I want my business to be a clean start. I want Liz Theresa to be everything that I already love about myself, but amplified. And that's kind of how I approached branding myself, as I thought, what are my best qualities in my opinion, in my humble opinion? I'm just kidding. No, I asked my friends, like, what are my best qualities? And people said, you're honest, trustworthy, loyal, funny, nice, and pretty much everything else comes after that. So then of course your talent will shine through because everybody's, a star and special, but that's really what I'm going for here. And so, yeah, I totally hear you about, embrace your inner Bobby.
I love it. But again, I want to ask you another question, a pointed question about web design. So aside from being yourself, not trying to copy anything, most online entrepreneurs, they're going to have a website, and we've all heard, or not, maybe we haven't all heard, but a lot of people in the funnel world, for example, will say that websites are dead. I don't agree with, but why don't you tell listeners why that's wrong?
That's so dumb. Your website's your foundation for your business. I mean, come on, guys. When people Google you, you want them to just land on a funnel page. No one's going to opt in if they don't understand you in a really human way. I mean, no one just gives their phone number to a stranger on the street just because he looks nice in a suit. That's what I would say. I mean, your website's definitely it's kind of like, do you want to walk on ice with high heels, or would you like to wear your Timberland boots and have a foundation and not fall on your ass? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. I hear
I'm not at you. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
It was with you.
I hear that, and I always think it's crazy because again, me as a lawyer, I think of it as, in a sense, my digital business card where people can go and see, oh yeah, this guy actually maybe does know what he's talking about. I should listen to him. But I hear that. But so let me ask you this: I assume as part of your web development, though, you do work with clients on lead generation and things like that as an important element of a web design.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And so, in a sense, is that a big thing that all entrepreneurs should really be thinking about as not ancillary? I'm going to use that word, ancillary to their.
I'm sorry. What does that mean? No.
Yeah. But it's kind of a core part of their web development process. Okay.
I like to really strip this down and give a very easy answer because this is something I think everyone should do. Make a list of all the things you want people to do when they come to your site. So this could be like a list of maybe you only want people to do 2 things and you don't really care about anything else. Maybe you have a list of 10 things. I want you to take that list, make sure it's in proper order, what's your top priority down to your bottom priority. And then looking at your site, do those things appear in that order? That is a really simple way to think about website design and layout.
That is an amazing piece of advice, and it's something that listeners should really take to the bank, and you can really do it very quickly and easily. So I love that piece of advice.
And I also think, because near that top, that should be lead generation. So it's not that everybody has to have their main opt-in or their email list or whatever you want to call it. That doesn't always have to be number 1. I would say for most businesses, it's in your top 1, 2, or 3.
Right. I think that's right. I mean, I now on my law firm's a bit different, but my the Your Online Genius, if you go there, you're going to see that you will very quickly get asked if you want to download one of my free resources, because that is obviously an important part of my business, and I would suspect everyone who's listening, it's important for them as well.
Yeah, they should go do that.
I like that advice, Liz.
Everyone go do that.
So one thing I would ask, though, is for someone who's going to do it themselves on building a website, are there any tools or resources that you would point them to that might help them along, at least in the early stages, maybe before they think they can justify paying someone to build a site for them?
Yeah, if you're a person if you're really insistent that you want to DIY it, never even I make WordPress websites, but that's my job. Okay. I have training in doing that. I have years of experience. If you make a WordPress site yourself, there's a very good chance you're really not going to do it right. Because to be honest, I know other developers that charge money for building WordPress sites and they do it wrong. And there are people that charge money for it. So if you're DIYing, I always say go to Squarespace and accept the fact that you have to pay the monthly fee to use Squarespace and just embrace that, because that's the only platform that I really think is I would say functionally acceptable for creating a design that looks nice. It wouldn't be as highly converting as having a custom design done for you, because if you have somebody designing your site, you can hand them that list of calls to action, that list of priorities, and that designer knows how to execute that for you. So if you do hire a designer, that's a really good thing to do. If you already have somebody in mind, do it for them. But even using that list for you in Squarespace, I would say it won't convert as well just because it's so template oriented, but it's also foolproof. So you're going to create something really pretty that's not going to just blow up one day. And you have 24/7 support through a platform like that.
Okay, great. Well, let me ask you one other question.
Yeah.
If a listener wants to go out and hire a web developer, and if for some reason they don't want to call you and hire you, which I don't understand why they wouldn't, but
because they're mean, they're the abrasive ones,
right? But if they weren't, what are some questions that they should be asking a web developer to make sure that they are qualified and seem to know what they're talking about?
I only hire people in America, and I don't care what that makes me sound. That makes me sound kind of mean, but to be honest with you, I hire people in America for the specific reason that they work in my time zone usually. So they're usually here, and that means that they're usually able to reply to me pretty quickly, and that matters to me. They code in English. So that means that like they're going to be developing something in English. So when you have a future developer maintain it, if you don't retain them, that means that the future person's not going to get lost in the code, because sometimes when you hire overseas, the code is in another language and it's logistically just really hard to manage it. So my number one answer is hire someone in America, hopefully, or speaks English and can respond to you pretty quickly. And I say respond to you pretty quickly because it's a very personal thing to hire a designer or a developer. And there is a difference between the two. Do you want me to briefly tell people what that is?
Yeah, please do.
A designer is a person, like an artiste, if you will, who like hopefully will convey what you want in a website into a design. So usually they're using something like Photoshop to create a design, a working design to go from. And then they take that design and they hand it to a developer. So occasionally you'll find somebody who does both. Like we're a firm that does both. So I'm Liz. I do all the design at Liz Theresa. And then Zach is my lead developer and he executes all the designs. He's worked with me forever. But yeah, if you're working with somebody, it's ideal to have a designer that has like a best friend developer that they always work with is another thing. So like if you're looking at designers first, which does make sense, you'd want them to work with somebody, like have somebody that they know that can do something well for you. Because I do know that like people have hired designers and then they outsource the actual building of the site to like some stranger. And then if things aren't done right, that stranger has no stake in that relationship with the designer to do you right. Is the problem.
Yep.
So that's another issue that I see people running into.
Yeah, that is great advice. I think anytime you have ongoing relationships, it tends to make things go more smoothly. So I love that piece of advice.
And call their clients. Ask who their clients are and just call them. Even if they say you can't, just do it. What are they going to do? Do you know what I mean? Like I say to everybody, I go, they're like, can you give me some references? I go, call anybody on my website. I don't really care. They don't care. Their numbers, everybody on my site has a website. So like you could just like go to their site and call them. No one cares. But yeah, like really ask them and just be like, are they a nightmare? And then they could be like, you know, they don't wear enough deodorant, but they're really social and helpful. And like, do you know what I mean? Like they could tell you about them as a human. And that's way more important than anything.
Liz, I love that you give candid advice to people and tell them to do things even when someone says not to. That is the kind of advice that I think everyone needs.
Oh, yeah, you're the boss. This is the other thing. Like you trying to mimic other people. Remember who you are. You're Liz effing Theresa, which is like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's like you go do you and like know that you're the boss. Be cool.
Well,
the end. No,
yeah, that is.
The mic.
I think you did drop the mic there. So you've given a lot of great advice and a lot of tips for people. One thing, I am a planner and I like to think in small chunks, and I like to think of things that I can do in 5 minutes a day or that I could get done by the end of the week. And so if you could give the listeners one piece of advice on any subject to improve their business by the end of the week, what would it be?
I would say start with the words on your website. I say this because, well, obviously I know copywriting, but because it doesn't take very long to like, you could even do it on the train, looking at your site page by page and making notes in your notes app to just implement later. But once you just changing the language, instead of thinking like I have to hire a designer and I need to like get a life coach because I'm so confused about everything. Just start there. Start with words.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
I love that piece of advice. Now, Liz, tell the listeners where they can get in touch with you and kind of what the best ways are if they want to hire you or just listen to your stories because you were so amusing. How should they reach out to you?
Send a pile of money via PayPal to, no. If you want to email me, I'm actually open to that. Liz@liztheresa.com. You can check out my site at liztheresa.com. I have a bunch of case studies that go over the actual work that we do with websites. If copy is more your poison, then I highly recommend going to freecopyvideo.com. So that's FREE, copyvideo.com. And you can download a free copywriting training video. And in the video, I give 5 easy tips so you can start improving your website copy like right now. So you don't have to like wait. It's instant gratification.
That is a great offer, and everyone should definitely go and get that because we could all stand to get better at our copywriting.
It's only a 7-minute video. I mean, like that's like in between like commercial breaks watching Frasier. Like you could do that.
a Friends reference, a Frasier reference. I tell you what.
90s sitcoms, they're my thing.
Yeah. Well, Liz, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure having you. I am so thankful that you agreed to come on and share your knowledge and your wisdom with my guests.
You are awesome, and you're awesome, and everyone listening is awesome, and you're all great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Liz. Now, listeners, stick around for my quick legal lesson after the little chime. You're going to get a quick lesson from me about how to protect the business you're building if you are using the advice that Liz gave. And so we'll be right back with that.
And now for today's legal lesson.
Hey, that was an amazing interview with Liz, wasn't it? Liz is a fantastic guest, and she's got some really great advice for folks, and that's why I brought her on. But now it's time for the legal lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm going to address something related to the portion of Liz's business and the interview that had to do with creating a website. So with her web development side. And what I want to talk about today particularly is the need for you and every other entrepreneur to have two documents on your website: a terms of service or terms of use, and a privacy policy. Now, I'm always amazed when I look around on websites and I'll see that some people don't have those on their site. And that's a big mistake. You need both of those on your website for a couple of different reasons. First, the terms of service, what you need to think of that as is that is the written agreement between you and the folks who visit your website. And I'm a big proponent of having written agreements on every important piece of your business, and your website's no different. So you need to have a terms of service that sets out, the basic agreement between you and your website visitors. On the privacy policy side, you need that because, quite honestly, you need to tell people what you're going to do with the information they provide. If you are collecting emails, you need to set out what you're going to do with that. If you are putting pixels or putting other tracking codes or cookies on folks' web browsers, you need to tell them that. You need to tell them all of this information so that you've disclosed it to them and they can't later complain about you having done that. So that's what's important on that. But also, quite honestly, on certain social media sites, if you're going to advertise, you have to have a privacy policy. You're going to have to point to it and show the social media site that you have a privacy policy. So you need to have that anyway. So those are the documents you need to have. But I want to take a moment to discuss what you need to include in the terms of service. And this is an issue where, quite honestly, there's a lot of boilerplate that goes into those documents or those pages. And that's the type of stuff you'll see on just about every website. If you go to any kind of major website and click on their terms of service, you're going to see it. And it'll include some statements where you disclaim liability. In other words, you're saying, hey, that you can't be held responsible if someone, takes your advice and it hurts them in any way, shape, or form, that they can't complain. That's where you'd set out any kind of limits on the use of the material. So, for example, there's a statement that you can't use this in a certain place, or, if there's some reason why it can't be used in a foreign country. You will also have a statement in there about you retaining your intellectual property, and that your brand and that your logo and that your name and all those things, that you retain control over that and someone can't take it. Again, that's not something that is necessarily, has to be on a web page, but you should put it in there in your terms of service. Most people will also put what's called an arbitration clause in. And an arbitration clause will say that, if someone wants to, have a dispute with you, they can't go to court. They can't sue you. They have to, do a private proceeding called an arbitration. That generally will keep people away and prevent you from ever having a dispute. So you'll want to have one of those in. But, those are kind of the general boilerplate language, and there's a lot more. I mean, if you're letting people post anything on your website, you will have a notice that, you don't control that. You'll also have something where you likely say that, you don't have control over the internet. And so any links are to websites you don't control. So you have no control and can't verify the information there. So you have those kinds of just general statements. And to get that type of information, you can go on to various places on the internet where you can get, a terms of service generator, and you'll get those types of boilerplate statements. But I wanted to take a moment to address issues that come up for online entrepreneurs specifically that are a bit different than for other traditional websites. And these will depend. Some will apply to you, some won't. So one of the ones that might come up that, for example, applies to my case is you might have to disclaim that you're not providing a certain kind of service or advice. And let me explain what I mean. In my case, if you go to youronlinegenius.com, you'll see that in the terms of service, it specifically says I'm not providing legal advice. I'm providing educational information related to the law. And that's a disclaimer that I have on there because as a lawyer, I don't give legal advice over the internet. If you're giving something that comes close to financial advice or to tax advice or to anything like that, you're going to want a disclaimer on it that says something similar, that says you're providing educational services, not legal advice, not financial advice, not tax advice. If you're someone who provides kind of wellness advice, you would want to say that you have a disclaimer that you're not providing medical advice or anything of that sort. So that kind of disclaimer will often have a role for people who are trying to provide kind of professional advice on the internet. If you have anything on your website about the results that your prior clients have gotten, you need to have a disclaimer that says that, there's no guarantees that anyone else will get the same results, but that you have truthfully reported the results of your prior clients. But again, so it's kind of a no guarantees statement. If you have downloadables like free downloads, and you want to put limits on that, you would write that into your terms of service. So for example, if you wanted to say that you wanted to have it so that you can only use it for a single business or for a single person, then you would put that in. So that would be an idea that you could put in. Another idea that you would generally want to put in is if you have limits on paid courses or paid resources. So for example, if you provide templates and those templates are only supposed to be used for a single business, for example, you would put that into your terms of service on your website. Similarly, if you want to have a limit that you have a paid course, but that no coach can take your course because you don't want them to come and take your course and then offer a competing product, you would write that into the terms of service of your website. Again, is it going to be enforceable? Are you going to be able to really keep people out? Maybe, maybe not, but you should have it in your terms of service anyway. And then here's one that a lot of people miss. If you have a money back guarantee of any kind, the place where you set out what the terms of that are is in the terms of service of your website. So you put that there, you explain, what do they have to do? Do they have to email you? Do they have to do it within a certain period of time? Do they have to show you that they've done the work? Do they, whatever the limits are, whatever you want to put for your money back guarantee, you need to go ahead and put that in to the terms of service for your website so that you can get the information, or put that as a limit that is going to apply for them. Now, that's a general rundown, but again, you have to think through your business. Are there particular limitations? Any particular limitation that's going to apply to your business, put it in the terms of service. The last thing that you need to think about with respect to your terms of service is, do people have to actually opt in? What I'll tell you is, everybody has a clause in their terms of service that says, by using this website, you're agreeing to these terms. But some judges in courts have been reluctant to actually find those enforceable. And they'll say, well, you can't do that because nobody actually looks at these documents. So if you want to ensure that it is actually enforceable, you need to get people to actually click on a box accepting your terms of service. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't do that for just general visitors to my website, and I don't think anyone should. But I do for anyone who purchases a product from my website has to click on a box saying that they accept the terms of service, and the terms of service is linked or hyperlinked so they have access to it. So if you're selling a product, you should have a click box that requires people to accept your terms of service. So that will make sure that you are getting the protection you need when money is changing hands. That's it for this legal lesson. Again, the important point is to make sure you have terms of service and a privacy policy on your website as you're developing it, as you're building it out. It's something that I see people miss quite frequently, so make sure you've got that done. That's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, I hope you'll subscribe on iTunes and give us a rating and review. That's an important thing that will help other people to find the podcast and to get more people learning the information that I'm providing. So I hope you'll do that. And until the next episode, that's it. I'm Bobby Klinck signing off.
Thanks for listening. And remember to visit mistakes.youronlinegenius.com to get your essential guide to the 4 legal mistakes that can doom your business and how to avoid them. Join us next week for another episode to expand your online genius and your success.